Today, we're going to go on a little detective journey. We are taking one of the most common words in the English language, putting it under a microscope, and, well, we're going to uncover a fascinating system that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. So let's dive in.
So this is our word for today, learning. I mean, it seems totally straightforward, right? We all do it, we all know what it means, but if you had to, how would you actually define it? And, more importantly, how would you define it simply? Before we go any further, just think about that for a second. When you look up a word in a dictionary, what are you actually hoping for? You know, some long academic explanation full of fancy terms, or something so clear you just get it instantly? Yeah, keep that question in mind.
Okay, so our main piece of evidence today is coming from a place called the Simple English Wiktionary. We're just going to look at their entry for the word learning, and I promise you there's way more going on here than you might first think.
All right, let's start with the absolute basics. You know, like any good dictionary entry, it breaks the word down into its parts of speech. So first up, we're going to see how it's used as a verb, an action, and how it's used as a noun, which is more of a concept.
Now take a look at this. What's so interesting here is just how incredibly simple these definitions are. The verb, if they didn't know the ideas before and they are starting to know them. It's almost, childlike in how clear it is. And the noun is actually defined using the verb itself. There's no jargon, no $10 words, it's just unbelievably direct.
And the example for the verb just illustrates the point perfectly. It gives you this real-world context without any confusion whatsoever. You immediately understand the action of learning in a sentence.
And it's the exact same thing for the noun. The example is something anyone can relate to. It just grounds this abstract idea of learning in a place we all connect it with. It's just simple. But is it too simple? Or maybe is there a reason for it?
Okay, this is where our little investigation takes a pretty cool turn. If you were to scroll all the way to the bottom of that Wikipedia page, way past the definitions and examples, you'd find this small, kind of cryptic clue that changes everything.
And there it is. Tucked away under categories, you see this tag BE850. What on earth does that even mean? It's not an obvious label like verbs or nouns. No, this looks like a code. And it's not the only one.
Because right at the very top of the entry, there's another, much more direct clue. It straight up says that our word, learning, is part of something called the Basic English 850 list. Okay, now the clues are starting to connect.
Which brings us to the central mystery here. What is this list? What is BE 550? Because this little tag, it's the key to understanding why that super simple definition we saw earlier is actually, believe it or not, a work of genius.
Okay, it's time for the big reveal. That B850 tag, it stands for Basic English 850. And it's not just some random list, it's a whole system, a complete system designed for a very, very specific purpose.
So Basic English is what you'd call a controlled language. It's a pared-down, simplified version of English that was created with one goal in mind, to be really easy to learn and understand for people all over the world. It's still English, but you're working with a much smaller toolbox.
And that's where this number comes in. 850. The creators of Basic English had this theory that with a carefully picked vocabulary of just 850 core words, you could clearly express, well, almost any idea. It's a whole system built on the power of limitation.
And that brings us full circle, right back to our dictionary entry. The reason it felt so simple, so direct, is because it had to be. The entire thing, the definition, the examples, everything, was built using only words from that core 850-word list. That simplicity wasn't an accident at all. It was a deliberate, masterful choice.
So why does any of this really matter? Well, because it reveals a really powerful idea. True clarity doesn't come from using big, complicated words. It comes from using the right words. A system like Basic English is literally designed to break down barriers and make information accessible to everyone, no matter what language they speak.
So, let's just recap the key takeaways here. First, that beautifully simple definition of learning we saw, totally intentional. It's a product of the Basic English system, which, as we now know, uses a core of just 850 words. And the whole point of that system is to achieve maximum clarity for a global audience. Simple as that.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We started with just one word and ended up uncovering an entire philosophy of communication. It really makes you wonder, if a concept as fundamental as learning can be explained this clearly, this simply, what other ideas in our work, in our lives, are we making needlessly complex? Food for thought. Thanks for joining me.